So, uh, George Washington had a volcanic temper. He fell desperately in love with a married woman, and he strongly disliked being touched by anyone.
Yeah, not exactly the guy on the dollar bill, right?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, usually when we talk about a historical figure like Washington, there's this expectation of absolute perfection.
Hey, for sure. It's like we need them to be untouchable.
Right. You look at the Washington Monument, or you see that their famous painting of him crossing the Delaware, and the guy just seems like a literal god carved into marble.
Clean, unflinching, totally unrelatable.
Exactly. Completely unrelatable.
Right.
But welcome to today's deep dive. If you're listening today, The Learner, we have a very specific mission.
Yes, we do.
This is a custom-tailored study review to help you prep for your upcoming multiple-choice quiz. We are pulling directly from Chapter 1 of the book, Lessons in Liberty.
Which is entirely focused on George Washington.
Right. And the central theme of today, which is also the title of the chapter and the absolute key to understanding this material for your test, is the phrase, emulate Cato, but prefer Cincinnatus.
And to really unpack what that means, we are going to look past all those statues, right? We have to find the real man.
Yeah, the real, deeply flawed, yet intentionally virtuous man.
I love that phrasing. Intentionally virtuous.
Yeah, I think we have to start with the flaws, actually.
Yeah.
Because before we can understand the specific historical lesson Washington teaches us, we first have to understand who the author actually says Washington was.
Right.
And why that reality clashes so much with how modern society views leaders.
It really does clash. I mean, the author opens the chapter by pointing out this fascinating paradox about him.
Oh, yeah, the omnipresence thing.
Exactly. George Washington is just everywhere in our national life. His face is on the currency, the Capitol bears his name.
There are statues of him from, Trafalgar Square in London, all the way to Lima, Peru.
Everywhere. And yet, despite being literally everywhere, he is arguably the most difficult founding father to truly understand.
Yeah, the author says he seems more like a mannequin wearing impossible virtue than an actual flesh and blood human being.
Right, which is why the source text lays out those lesser-known traits you mentioned earlier.
It totally shits your perspective. I mean, he had this terrifying, just volcanic temper.
Yes, he did.
And he had a surprisingly paltry education compared to heavyweights like, Thomas Jefferson or John Adams.
He was very self-conscious about that, too.
Yeah. And his military victories were actually pretty sparse. Like, he lost a lot of battles.
A lot of them.
Plus, he was just deeply forever concerned with his own wealth and his public reputation.
What's fascinating here is why the author deliberately highlights these human insecurities and flaws.
Right? It's not just to drag him.
No, not at all. The author is contrasting Washington's reality with our modern era of cynicism.
Yeah.
We live in this age characterized by an endless zeal for, debunking and tearing down historical figures.
Oh, totally. The modern impulse is just to hollow out exemplars from the past, find their absolute worst moment, and define them entirely by it.
Which the text argues says much more about us than it does about them.
Yeah, and if you think about our modern political expectation of leaders, it's just a total 180 from Washington.
Oh, completely.
Today, it's all about unapologetic ambition.
Right.
Politicians are just constantly chasing clout.
Right, the endless social media cycle.
Yeah, they're firing off nonsense tweets, performing at these lavish fundraisers, or, I don't know, walking around a state fair eating deep-fried butter on a stick just to get a viral photo op.
The deep-fried butter is a great visual, but yeah, it's all performative.
There is zero restraint. It's all vainglory.
Precisely. And to Washington, that ostentatious drive for glory, that hubris, those were impulses that had to be suppressed at all costs.
Like it was a moral imperative.
Yes. The author includes his temper and his ambition to prove that Washington wasn't just born a flawless god. His unimpeachable character was a daily, deliberate choice.
A really difficult choice.
Very difficult. He had to consciously suppress his own ambition for the greater good.
So, listener, quiz time. According to the text, why does the author emphasize Washington's flaws, like his temper and love for wealth?
We'll give you just 3 or 4 seconds here to think of your answer.
Lock it in.
Okay, the answer you're looking for is to contrast with modern cynicism and prove that his virtuous character was a deliberate, difficult choice to suppress his own ambition.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because realizing you have a terrible temper and actually keeping it in check are two very different things.
Extremely different.
If Washington is actively suppressing his natural instincts, he had to have had a role model.
He did.
And to find that role model, the text says we have to look at the pop culture of the Founding Fathers, which was ancient Rome.
Yeah, they didn't have screens, so their pop culture was Roman history.
Mm-hmm.
The founding generation viewed Roman figures the way modern kids view, like Marvel or Star Wars characters.
That is so wild to think about.
It is, but it's true. Washington's ultimate hero was Cato. Marcus Porcius, Cato Eudes Census.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
Right. But Washington knew him from a massively popular play at the time called Cato, a Tragedy.
Right, and Washington was so obsessed with this play that he actually had it performed for his troops during that miserable winter at Valley Forge, right?
They did. Just imagine that scene. You have these freezing, starving soldiers huddled together in the snow, watching a play about a stoic Roman senator.
Just to boost morale. That is intense.
Very. And the text notes that Cato was a Roman who heroically resisted the megalomania and tyranny of Julius Caesar.
So what exactly did Cato symbolize to Washington and his guys?
Cato symbolized steadfast devotion to an ideal bigger than oneself. Selflessness, duty.
Right, but there's a pretty massive catch here.
There is.
Cato famously committed suicide rather than submit to Caesar's despotism.
Yes, he literally fell on his sword to avoid living under a tyrant.
See, okay, let's unpack this because, dying for a principle sounds incredibly noble in a play. It's dramatic, it's great for the stage.
Sure.
But if you're trying to literally build a brand new country from scratch, how is a guy who famously kills himself a practical role model for leadership?
That's a very fair question.
Right. You can't lead a republic if you're dead.
No, you can't. And that's exactly the tension the author addresses. Washington took Cato's internal courage and his steadiness. He needed that to be a perpetual pillar for the American cause.
So he took the vibe, not the actual, self-sacrifice part.
Right. He took the internal steadfastness, but he realized he needed a totally different model for actual political survival.
Okay, that makes sense. So, quiz time again for the listener. What specific virtues did the Roman figure Cato symbolize for Washington?
Take a few seconds. Picture that freezing play at Valley Forge.
Right, time's up.
The answer is self-sacrifice, dying for principle, and steadfast devotion to an ideal bigger than oneself.
Awesome. So, if Cato is the mindset for wartime courage, what is the mindset for actual survival and leadership?
Well, this brings us to the author's main lesson, the second half of the chapter title.
Right. Prefer Cincinnatus.
Yes. Washington emulated Cato's courage, but he ultimately preferred the actions of Cincinnatus because building a nation requires living for it, not just dying for it.
Okay, so who was Cincinnatus? Because honestly, before this source text, I was pretty fuzzy on him.
Cincinnatus was a Roman farmer. He was called by the Senate during this massive crisis to be a temporary dictator to save a trapped Roman army.
And when you say dictator, you mean like total, absolute power.
Total power. He held 6 months of absolute authority. But the crazy part is he liberated the army in just 15 days.
15 days.
Yeah. And then he immediately surrendered his power and humbly returned to his farm.
Just went back to plowing his fields.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text points out that Washington is nicknamed the American Cincinnatus because he mirrored this exact voluntary surrender of power.
He did it on a global stage, too.
Right. After the Revolutionary War, Washington shocked the world by surrendering his military commission to a weak Congress in Annapolis.
And that Congress had very little real authority. He could have easily marched in and taken over.
It's just so insane to human nature. I was thinking about this, and the analogy I came up with is, it's the equivalent of someone holding the only winning billion-dollar lottery ticket, right?
Okay, I see where you're going.
And they voluntarily give the ticket back because they genuinely think it's better for the community if no single person holds that much wealth.
It just defies basic human instincts.
It totally does. Nobody gives up the $1 billion.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author explains that in the chronicles of history, surrendering absolute power simply wasn't done.
Yeah, the text mentions Nero, Ivan the Terrible, Genghis Khan.
Exactly. Despots take power and they hold it until they die. But by embracing the humility of Cincinnatus rather than the dramatic suicide of Cato, Washington ensured his own immortality.
Even his enemies were blown away. Didn't King George III say something about this?
Yes, he purportedly said that if Washington actually retired and went back to his farm, he would be the greatest man in the world.
Wow. From the guy he just beat in a war.
Right. And Washington didn't just do it once. He later refused a third term as president to let the republic replenish itself.
He stepped away again.
Again, voluntarily.
All right, Leonard, get ready. Quiz time number 3. Why is George Washington nicknamed the American Cincinnatus?
Think about that Roman farmer. Just take a few seconds here.
Okay, what's the answer?
The answer is because, like the Roman Cincinnatus, he was given absolute power but voluntarily surrendered it to return to his farm.
But wait, so preferring Cincinnatus didn't just mean running away to his farm forever.
It didn't.
Because in between his military command and his eventual presidency, Washington had to leverage that immense trustworthiness one more time to save the new government.
Yes, at the Constitutional Convention.
Right, because the original government, the Articles of Confederation, was basically falling apart.
It was a disaster. So they held this convention in Philadelphia, and Washington lent his veneer of legitimacy just by showing up.
He didn't even talk much, right?
Barely said a word. He sat elevated as the presiding officer. He was basically the adult in the room, keeping everyone from tearing each other apart.
Which leads to that really famous anecdote from the text, the rising sun chair.
Yes. Benjamin Franklin was there, looking at the half-sun painted on the back of Washington's chair.
Because it was just like a semicircle of a sun, so you couldn't tell if it was coming up or going down.
Exactly. Franklin noted he often wondered if it was a rising or setting sun. But because of Washington's willingness to serve as a trustworthy custodian, Franklin declared it was a rising sun.
Meaning a new, hopeful nation was dawning.
Right. And as president, Washington continued that custodian role. He actively resisted monarchical tendencies.
Oh yeah, the source mentioned John Adams wanted to call him, what, his mightiness?
Yes, his mightiness or his elective majesty.
That is so embarrassing.
It is very awkward. But Washington rejected all of it in favor of simply Mr. President.
So what does this all mean? Like, did Washington's mere physical presence really hold the entire Constitutional Convention together?
The author makes a very strong case that it did.
Really? Could the words on the parchment have survived without him sitting in that chair?
Honestly, probably not. The new Article 2 executive branch was incredibly ambiguous on paper.
The presidency part.
Right. The framers were terrified of a king. It had to become incarnate in a living, breathing human being that they all trusted implicitly.
So they basically built the office around his character.
Washington's character defined the office just as much as the theory did. As the author notes, there is no Constitution or United States without Washington.
Because he is the only one they trusted to be Cincinnatus, to give the power back.
Exactly.
Okay, listener, final quiz question. During the Constitutional Convention, what did the half-sun on Washington's chair symbolize to Benjamin Franklin?
Give it about 3 seconds.
Got it in your head.
The answer is a rising sun, symbolizing a new, hopeful nation secured by Washington's trustworthy leadership.
Okay, let's just quickly recap the overarching theme for your test prep.
Let's do it.
Washington was a deeply flawed human, right? He had a temper, he loved wealth, but he actively chose to suppress his ambition.
Deliberate suppression.
Yes. He used Cato for his moral courage and steadfastness during the war, but he used Cincinnatus as his blueprint for surrendering power.
And by doing that, he secured the rising sun of the American Republic.
Nailed it.
You know, this raises an important question, though, and I think it's a great final thought entirely based on the last page of the source text.
Oh yeah, the part about his death.
Right. Washington died just 3 years into John Adams's single term.
So not long after he stepped down.
Barely any time at all. It's almost as if he stayed alive just long enough to ensure his exit wouldn't abruptly end the American experiment.
Like he held on just to make sure the handoff worked.
Exactly. He proved the Republic could survive without him. But the source text asks a really chilling question for us today.
And what is that?
Do modern citizens actually want a republic?
Wow.
A republic requires active, informed citizenship and shared responsibility. The author asks if our inherited wealth has rotted away our capacity for genuine sacrifice.
Meaning, do we just want, like, easy, breezy contentment instead of doing the hard work Washington did?
Exactly. Have we lost the ability to suppress our own desires for the greater good?
That is heavy, but definitely something for you to mull over as you walk into that quiz.
Yeah.
You have all the facts, but now you have the deeper context too.
Good luck on the test.
Yeah, you're going to crush it. Just remember, emulate Cato, prefer Cincinnatus. See you next time on The Deep Dive.